Hey y'all, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today's video, I wanted to do a video on the America's dynasties from the Revolution to modern day, because wow, do we have them? And I think even there are many that are to the present day, like anyways. But yeah, I just wanted to start with back in 1774 with the Adams Dynasty. Now, y'all, this would be very obvious, at least the first two generations, because they were both presidents. John Adams, being a founding father, president, all of it. He served as the first. He served as the U.S. envoy to France, minister to the Netherlands, minister to the United Kingdom, vice president and president of the United States. Then his son, John Quincy Adams, was the sixth United States president, U.S. president of the U.S. That's funny. Anyways. And his brother, Thomas Boylston Adams, was a member of the lower house of the Massachusetts legislature from 1805 to 1806. Also, I don't know why I didn't write it down, but John Quincy Adams also, I imagine, and I do believe, was on either envoys to places or part of the legislature, like of the U.S. House. But yeah, John Quincy Adams, he was also involved in government. I don't believe he was as involved as his father, because his father was like everything, so he was like slightly less involved, but anyways. Oh, but yeah, John Quincy Adams' brother was a member of the lower house of the Massachusetts legislature from 1805 to 1806. And then I think it was John Quincy Adams' son, George Washington Adams, was a member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, also known as the lower house of the Massachusetts legislature, from 1826 to 1827. John Adams II was a private secretary to the president during his own, I don't know if that would have been his own father or his own uncle's presidency. This shit ran deep. It ran deep. Anyways. Charles Francis Adams Sr. was a representative of Massachusetts' 3rd District from 1859 to 1861, and the United States envoy to the United Kingdom from 1861 to 1868. Which means, yes, he served in 3 consecutive administrations. the Lincoln administration, the Johnson administration, the first one, not the second one, and the Grant administration. But anyways, 4th generation, John Quincy Adams II was a member of the Massachusetts legislature for a total of 4 terms between 1866 to 1879. And Charles Francis Adams Jr. was the president of the Union Pacific Railroad, which was wild to figure out. And then 5th generation, the final one, was Charles Francis Adams III, mayor of Quincy, Massachusetts for a year, and then Secretary of the Navy from 1929 to 1933. Oh, but this also shows that the Adams dynasty, while beginning as Federalists, transformed into Republicans. But yeah, so the Adams dynasty lasted a good 160 years. It was a long time. It was a long time, and they played parts, and some played huge parts, some played some more minor parts. Well, no, he was Secretary of the Navy. That was huge. Charles Francis Adams Jr. only was the president of the Union Pacific Railroad, which is probably important at the time, but not, president or secretary of the president or something like that, Anyways, and also many of them were members of 1, 2, 3 of them. John Adams probably was too, so 3 or 4 of them were members of the Massachusetts legislature. Anyways, next, the Taft Dynasty, which I have very much I don't have a connection to, obviously, because I'm not a Taft, but I find this is in Ohio, and I live in Ohio. So I'm like, I love that a political family ruled my state for a good 200 years. But anyways, so this is Robert Peter Rose. No, not Robert. Oh my goodness. Peter Rawson Taft was a member of the Vermont House of Representatives. I tried figuring out when that was, and I just couldn't. But this also shows that William Howard Taft is the only one that the U.S. would know. Like, he was a president, but everyone else in his family were also important. Not everyone. He was not as important. He was just the beginner of it. But all of these people, they were definitely important. They all played a role in the U.S. So this guy was the Secretary of War under the last year of the Grant administration, and Attorney General during the last year also of the Grant administration. U.S. Minister to Hungary, Austria-Hungary during the 1880s, the early 1880s, and U.S. Minister to Russia up until Grover Cleveland took over. Then he saw his Democrat dynasties, I imagine. This guy, he was Chief Justice of the United States, Supreme Court, President of the United States. He was Governor General of the Philippines at one point. He was Secretary of War, Provincial Governor of Cuba, and Court Justice on the Superior Court of Cincinnati. Like, he was Solicitor General of the United States, Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, which is like he had an extensive career, which is why now I'm thinking I could read a biography read a biography. Anyways, this guy, Henry Waters Taft, he was a member of the New York Board of Education during, that would have been the McKinley administration, but really during a governor's term, I imagine. Chairman of the Permanent Legal Advisory Board for the Greater New York. Member of the Commission on Reorganization of New York State Government, whatever that is. A member of the Advisory Committee to investigate public schools in New York City, and member of the Cost of Public Education in 1933. Which probably means I believe, because these are Republicans, I believe that he worked at the tail end of the Herbert Hoover administration, which is something. This guy, Robert A. Taft, was legal advisor for the American Relief Administration towards the end of the Wilson administration after World War I, member of the Ohio House of Representatives for 10 years, and Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives, and a member of the Ohio Senate, U.S. Ohio Senator from 1939 to 1953, Chair of the Senate Republican Party Committee from 1947 to 1953, and Senate Majority Leader in 1953. That's a lot for this guy. This guy, he was Hamilton County Prosecutor, member of Cincinnati City Council, District of the U.S. Community War Service. No, this is third generation, I'm concerned. So this first, second, third, fourth. Oh, this would have been fourth. So this guy was Robert, I believe. This guy was the Senate guy. And then this guy would have been in the City Council of Cincinnati. Wow, okay. This guy, he was, oh my goodness, William Howard Taft III, U.S. Ambassador to Ireland, member of the State Department, Consul of Mozambique, a member of State Department Bureau of Scientific, Environmental, and Space Affairs. Robert Taft Jr., member of the Ohio House of Representatives from 1955 to 1962, member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and again from that time, U.S. Senator of Ohio. Seth Taft was a commissioner from 1971 to 1978. Oh, we only got 5 generations down. But see, it's weird because these two are part of the 6th generation, but they're not shown here as the 5th. Anyways. This guy was the member of the Ohio House of Representatives for a handful of years, Hamilton County Commissioner for the 80s, and Secretary of Ohio from the 90s, he actually defeated the incumbent Sherrod Brown, who was the current senator of a senator from Ohio now, a U.S. senator, and he was governor from no, he was governor. Oh my goodness! So this is Bob Taft. This is William Howard Taft IV. Oh wow, I can speak properly. He was the Hamilton County Commissioner, member of the Ohio House of Representatives, Governor of Ohio, and Secretary of Ohio. This guy was a member of the General Council of Defense during the early 80s, U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense during the mid to late 80s, acting General Secretary of Defense in 1989, permanent representative to NATO from 1989 to 1992, and legal advisor to the Department of State for 4 years during the first term of the Bush administration, the Bush Jr. administration. So yeah, basically, like, they have a dynasty lasting 6 generations apparently. It's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, and it's in Ohio, which is where I live, so that's just so great. The next one would be the Kennedy Dynasty. Now, I'm not going to go into all of this because I just don't want to, and it's going to take way too long, and y'all don't want to hear it. So the point is, this guy started the whole thing, and he started in Massachusetts, which is where, basically down to here, is where, like, I think this generation, the third generation, is where it stopped being just in Massachusetts, and because all of these people were not just in Massachusetts, you know? Anyways, member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, this guy was ambassador to the UK and chair of a chair of a commission, of 2 commissions actually, in the government during the FDR administration. JFK was the president, obviously. Ted Kennedy was Ted Kennedy, where is that? Or Robert Kennedy, not Ted Kennedy. Robert Kennedy was the U.S. Attorney General and U.S. Senator from New York. Also was going and planning on running for the Democratic nomination in 1968, but then was sadly killed, assassinated. And this girl was the U.S. ambassador to Ireland for really the second term. Well, actually just the middle and the majority of the presidency of Bill Clinton. This guy was a senator for a really long time. This guy was an actor and a pilot and, died young, but I think the only position he actually held was Deputy Director of the 42nd Street Development Corporation in 1986. Like, that's literally the only even quote-unquote political position that he ever had, even though it wasn't really political, it was just me. Anyways, this girl was in the Obama administration. What did she do? She was the Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. This guy, I believe, was a U.S. representative from Massachusetts. She was the U.S. ambassador to Japan during the second term of the Obama administration. Is it him? I think it was either this guy or this guy that was in California, chairman of California State Park and Recreation Commission, member of Santa Monica City Council, mayor of Santa Monica. She was the first lady of California during the Arnold Schwarzenegger administration. Commissioner of District of Columbia. This guy, I think it was this guy, was the commissioner of the District of Columbia. This guy was a member of the Massachusetts Senate. And it would have been, this guy was the Santa Monica mayor of California, And this guy was the Democratic congressional chair during 1999 to 2001. Wow, I don't know how anyways, I don't know how I did that. And this guy was a U.S. representative of Massachusetts from 2013 to 2021 and a member of the President's Commission on White House Fellowships since this year. So the Kennedy dynasty is still going. It's just that all of its power is just gone because this guy tried primarying the incumbent Democrat senator from Massachusetts and he did not win. So yeah. Then we got the Bush dynasty, which I also not going to go over it, but this guy, he worked on Industrial War he was basically working right after World War One on a war industry board and working for how to help the poor during the Robert Hoover administration. This guy was a Connecticut Republican finance chairman, whatever that is. Oh, never mind, I know what that is. And he was a U.S. Senator of Connecticut, also Republican, because at the time New England was a lot more Republican. It was Republican period, which it just isn't now. Anyways, this guy, he had a long career in foreign policy, being the president of the United States, being the vice president of the United States. It's a whole lot. He was also in Harris, Texas. I think the third generation is when the Bush legacy and Bush dynasty moved to Texas. But anyways, this guy, he was ambassador to China, director of Central Intelligence, ambassador to the UN, a representative from Texas, the Harris County Republican Party, chairman, vice president, and president. He was everything. He was just everything. This guy was governor of Texas and president. This guy was governor of Florida and the chairman of the Dade County Republican Party, Florida Secretary of Commerce, and then governor of Florida. And this guy is the land commissioner of Texas since 2015. So anyone who lives in Texas, y'all might want to vote him out because he is a Bush, and on this channel, we do not like Bushes. We do not like Bushes. But anyways, just like how we don't like Tafts. I like JF. I used to love JFK because of, what everyone depicted him as. I no longer love JFK. I think it's sad that he passed away and was assassinated. That should never have happened. But looking back at his record as president, it was not very good. Anyways, but I could do a video on that later. Anyways, so some notable the Bush dynasty. So some notable mentions. At the top of the list, we have the Clintons. Bill Clinton, he was Attorney General of Arkansas, Governor of Arkansas, President of the United States. Hillary Clinton, the First Lady of Arkansas and of the United States, obviously, and then a New York Senator and Secretary of State. Mike DeWine. Okay. Let's just say, do not like him. I also don't like that he's... Oh, we're going to get into that in a second. Okay. So Richard Michael DeWine, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney for Greene County, Prosecuting Attorney for Greene County, Ohio State Senator, U.S. Representative from Ohio, Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, U.S. Senator from Ohio, Attorney General of Ohio, and Governor of Ohio. So he just baked himself in decades of Ohio politics. And sadly now our governor. Anyways, this guy is was a member of the Cincinnati City Council, judge of the Ohio Court of Appeals, and now Associate Justice on the Ohio Supreme Court. This girl was the Assistant Prosecutor for Greene County, tried becoming the main prosecutor and failed. We have Dick Cheney, who was a staff member for the Director of Office of Economic Opportunity, White House Staff Assistant, Assistant Director of Cost of Living Council, Deputy Assistant to the President, White House Chief of Staff, U.S. Representative of Wyoming, Chair of Member of the House Republican Caucus and House Minority Whip, U.S. Secretary of Defense, and then Vice President. This lovely lady that, let's just keep it at that. She was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Eastern Affairs, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, Near Eastern Affairs, leader of the Iranian Syria Policy and Operations Group, U.S. Representative of Wyoming, currently is chair of the House Republican Conference, she was, and vice chair of the January 6th committee, which she is currently. Sadly. Now, onto the Pelosi's, because, oh my goodness, do they have... They're in deep, let's just say. This guy was a member of the State House of Delegates, Maryland State House of Delegates, the General Deputy Collector of Internal Revenue, member of the Baltimore City Council, U.S. Representative from Maryland, Mayor of Baltimore, and member of the Federal Renegotiation Board. This guy was the president of the Baltimore City Council and the previous mayor of Baltimore, and this woman right here was the chair of the California Democratic Party, U.S. Representative of California, House Minority Whip, leader of the Democratic House Caucus, House Minority Leader, and then Speaker of the House of Representatives, and she's currently that. So, yeah, basically, the Adams is from Massachusetts. They did a bunch of stuff in the government from Massachusetts, but also during different administrations. A lot of them were also U.S. secretaries. Well, one of them. Actually, not a lot of them. One of them. And this was, the Tafts are in Ohio, were in Ohio. They're no longer, here. They're no longer a thing, but the Taft Dynasty was in Ohio. They were in a bunch of different commissions. Some of them were law people. A lot of them were in the Ohio House of Representatives. One of them was even the governor. One of them was a senator for the longest time. It's a lot. Now the Kennedys, none of the Kennedys, they're also from Massachusetts. A lot of them. These people are from a wide range of states. And he's back in Massachusetts, but anyways. But yeah, Massachusetts, generally progressives, they really pushed America for civil rights. Ooh, whoa. Also a bunch of other things, but anyways. This dynasty is mainly, let's just say not okay. But yeah, it started over in Connecticut, it seems, with this guy. But then since George Herbert Walker Bush, it's been in Texas. We have governors of Texas, 2 presidents of the United States, governor of Florida, and apparently land commissioner of Texas. And then we got the notable mentions, like I said, Hillary Clinton, the Cheney's. So the Clintons, Cheney's, Pelosi's, and the Lyons. But anyways, but this is all to illustrate that it is a bipartisan thing. There's Democrat dynasties and Republican dynasties. It's just not. It really is a bipartisan effort to make a dynasty for you and your children to be in politics. But anyways, yeah, that was my video, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.